Okay, we are live stream, everybody. If we can just get your attention, and we're just checking for any immediate questions before lunchtime. Table 13, Alana, please.
Sorry, just in relation to
Sorry, folks, can I get
1.1, the next national drug strategy. Why can't it be this national drug strategy? Why does it have to be the next national drug strategy? Why do we have to wait another 2 years?
We just answered it. Carl, do you want briefly?
It's a very good question. I mean, it's, I suppose, recognising that the current national drug strategy is at the end of its shelf life. So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the next 2 years, because one of the other recommendations later on is calling for the next national drug strategy to be brought forward. So really, it's around resetting the focus of the next national drug strategy. But you could certainly argue that it should also be prioritised right now. It's a good question.
And if the suggestion is drop next, we can do that.
Yeah, if you drop the word next and next iteration, it'll apply obviously to this strategy and to the next one.
Can you just test that in the room? Do you believe the recommendations will be stronger if we just drop the word next? Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
Next question, anybody? Sorry, table 1.
I'd just like to know, do we need 1 and 2? To me, they seem quite similar and would just dilute.
1 and 2 are very similar. Do we need both?
You could certainly merge them. They're slightly different. One is focused on the national strategy. The other is focused on government policy formulation, which is what happens in terms of as ministers across different departments propose policies, that they should cross-reference it with the sort of the health implications. So they are two different things.
Yeah, and it is encouraging any policy development to have a consideration of health issues. Some policy issues are required to do it for EU considerations, for example.
Yeah.
We're saying it should be health as well. But they are different, Aveline. They're distinct. Table 1 again. So Mike is there.
Just personally, I'd have a concern that some of the options on this ballot paper are quite vague and open to interpretation. And my concern would be that if we present these conclusions on the same basis that we presented the conclusion about legislative change, that it might be an option for the government to focus on these conclusions, which are open to interpretation, and to maybe relegate the proposed legislative changes to a different stratum. And I just wanted to ask the question, is there any way for the Assembly to emphasise that we want to see action on legislation, and that the other recommendations shouldn't dilute that?
And that's a really good input, because the shaping of the report will be important in terms of what way it's said, what way it's stressed, not just a list of recommendations. And there will be an opportunity, and we should be stressing the importance level of some recommendations in particular. That's where I'd say that.
Yeah, and just to re-emphasise, there already is a commitment given by the Oireachtas and by the government, and it's written into the terms of reference that each of them will respond comprehensively to all the recommendations. So they won't, if you like, they won't have the scope to relegate or disregard certain recommendations, at least at response stage. So there will be transparency coming from both the Oireachtas and from the government about all of the recommendations made by the Assembly.
But again, point well made. Okay, I'm going to go Maura first, and then John just before lunch. Table 7 and table...
Sorry, this is just a quick one from table 7.
The mic got hijacked on the way.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
On every recommendation, the word should be replaced with the word must, to underline the importance of the recommendations.
Okay. And that's a judgment call.
Yeah, just on that last point, I was just, I don't know whether this fits in or not, but anyway, sure. CNN did a program on San Francisco there a few months ago, but talking about putting the cart before the horse, or that the government might pick one bit and not the other, where it outlined that without the appropriate social scaffolding to support communities and families to prevent problematic drug use in the first place, that in their experience now in California, it seems to have aggravated their drug problem. So they kind of put the cart before the horse. And that is common now when they give a list of things to see, all sorts of things on the streets and certain areas. And one lovely area, that was a lovely area in it, called the main square, I think, I forget the name of it now, that it's barred up shops and places where there used to be lovely hotels and restaurants.
Union
so
Square,
just to be
I think it is.
careful, you know, to jump, that I think to put the scaffolding in first.
Okay,
So
I
thank you.
think it's a comment rather than a question. John, on the table, and then
1.3 talks about the nearly 5,000 people.
John, just keep it up to your mouth closer.
Sorry, nearly the 5,000 people in prison. Are there going to be resources given in terms of social workers within the prison to get people on their programs?
That comes on later.
Yeah, well, that's covered in one of the next ballot papers on funding, and there's a recommendation about increasing resources for exactly, you know, those type of services within the prison system.
I'm going to take one last question from table 4 and then let you get some lunch. And 12 is getting annoyed with me because I said one last question. Okay.
Sorry, we had the same feedback on 1.1, just that could the recommendations all address the current national drug strategy? Sorry,
And
my
we
voice
did
is a
agree,
bit
the room agreed,
Yeah.
room agreed we'll do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then the other thing was, in terms of, could the recommendation say something about implementation and accountability as well, please, within the recommendations?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That'll come up in one of the next ballot papers. There is a focus on implementation and governance.
Table 12.
For all recommendations?
Yes.
And then just 1.3, could we add within international best practice timeframes, please?
Table 12.
Yeah, so just from the table, there's just 2 queries. 1.3, the state should formalise, adopt and resource alternative health-focused options for people with a drug problem as opposed to with a drug addiction. It's just, we think it further stigmatises, so just maybe remove the word addiction. And then...
Okay, just clarify that one more time so we make sure we catch it, please. Adele.
Sorry, so it was for people with a drug... For problematic drug users or for people with a drug problem, just the language seems slightly stigmatising. That was an opinion from the table. I don't know if it wants to be brought forward.
And this is in relation to
1.3.
1.3.
If I could just say, like, the word addiction, drug addiction, kind of appears significantly across this ballot paper, right? Yeah. And I suppose we're distinguishing between referencing, you know, the clinical fact of drug addiction versus describing somebody as an addict. So my understanding from the discussions around stigmatization and stigmatizing language is describing somebody as a drug addict, you know, is stigmatizing, whereas describing drug addiction is a different proposition. But I don't know if I've picked that up correctly.
I think it was the preferred language. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Look,
fine.
I'm gonna, sorry, go ahead, Adele.
There was
Apologies.
just another one from the table. Sorry. This ballot paper 1 piece, is that going to go forward, the heading? So recovery and supporting people with problematic drug use within the criminal justice system?
Do you mean into the report?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. This is only to just try and summarise what's an amalgam of 2 different topics: recovery and then supporting people with problematic drug use in the criminal justice system.
It refers throughout the paper as within the criminal justice system, but the drug strategy prioritising a systemic approach is broader, isn't it?
Yes, so questions 1.1 and 1.2 are broader than people within the criminal justice system. So the criminal justice system questions are just 1.3 and 1.4.
So does the criminal justice bit need to be just taken out of the header?
I wouldn't concern on the header genuinely. There'll be different headings as we get to our report and categories, primarily to help ourselves today.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry. No.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to no. Let's do a break because, in fairness to the hotel, we're back at 2, isn't it?
Yes, 2
back
o'clock.
at 2. If I can ask you back 2 sharp, and we'll kick straight back in to try close out on this one. Thank you. Sorry, can I go back to the ballots paper number 1? There were a number of questions came up just before, some clarifications, some just comments. The one came up in terms of just saying strategy rather than next strategy, and the room agreed that we should go with that, so we'll change the paper on that basis. Excuse me. Second one came up that we should say remove should and put must everywhere. Colin and myself have just been talking about this, and here is our view. We would recommend stay with should. It's generally the tone of most proposals, most propositions to government. Might have a bit more bite to it. My own view, it won't make a difference. It stresses it maybe differently. But I would recommend, and Cathal would agree with me, that we stick with should on those bases. But I'm going to test that with the room, in fairness. So who agrees we should stay with the word should? Okay, I think it is a majority. And look, it's a nuance issue. I wouldn't be overly concerned about it, but that's our view. Thanks. There was another question about these being amalgamated. I think we addressed that they are two separate, distinct issues. There was a question around the language of drug addiction. And I think Cathal did address that. That is a kind of a preferred term, medically and otherwise. There was a question around the header that's on it, and we clarified it's not a header that's in the recommendation. And then there was a question around within international best practice, and Cathal is proposing that we take that out of the recommendation and put it into the text to describe it. I wasn't sure it's adding huge value in the recommendation itself. Are you all okay with those changes that we've brought forward? Okay. Okay, so we'll do that. Is there anything burning, changing people want to do here? Because what I propose next is we agree that we'll ballot on those papers based on those changes. Can I have a show of hands to just say agreed? Okay, agreed. We will now prepare those ballot papers. So we're going to keep things working in parallel. Count is still going on number 2. We're going to prepare the ballot papers, those on number 1. And now I'm going to move us to number 3. That's okay? So we just try to keep things moving in parallel. But we will keep you posted once we have results. So, ballot paper number 3, which is being circulated? Okay, apologies. It will be around the whole issue, which some of the questions came up in that session around governance and implementation. Do you remember some of the discussions we had about oversight and political oversight, etc.? So it'll be in those areas and a number of questions. So just give us a minute, sorry. So anybody who wants to cast their vote now for item 1, ballot paper 1, the vote's open. Have they got? Fair play. Where'd you get it? Where'd you go in Mexico? Love it. No, fair play to you, yeah. And the kids with you? Lovely. Well done. No. I did not. Lies. Okay, feel free to grab a cup of tea, please, everybody. Can I just check that everybody has cast their vote who wants to cast their vote on ballot paper 1? Final call for ballot paper 1, a green ballot paper. Ballot paper 1, please. Yeah, that's it, Leonida, yeah. What was that? Okay, one last check. Is everybody who wants to vote on ballot 1 cast their vote with the green ballot paper? And we are distributing ballot papers 4, 5 and 6 to your tables now at the moment. You just grab a cup of tea and we'll take time.